The red dust of Zimtenga was everywhere. It covered the ground, filled the air, and settled into the lines of old man Zongo's weathered face. Even his once gray hair now looked reddish-brown from all the dust. As the hot sun beat down from above, he narrowed his eyes, gripping the handlebars of his old motorcycle. It was a small, rusty Honda CG 125, and Zongo had owned it for decades. The bike coughed and grumbled like it didn't want to start, but Zongo patted the dented fuel tank gently and spoke to it in Moray, his native language. "Patience, old friend," he whispered. "Today we are not carrying maize, not millet either. Today we carry something more important. We carry gratitude." For many weeks, Zongo had been thinking about this trip. The idea had been growing inside him like a quiet fire, pushing back the fear that had gripped his village for so long. For years, armed men had come to Zimtenga, bringing terror with them. They stole cows, burned fields, and silenced anyone who resisted. People were afraid to laugh, afraid to gather. Even weddings were quiet, fearful events. At night, the village held its breath. But one day, everything began to change. At first, it was just whispers on the old radio. Then the whispers became real news. A name kept coming up: Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a young soldier, a man who stood tall and refused to be corrupted, a leader who promised to bring back peace. Slowly, and almost like a dream, things began to shift. Soldiers started patrolling the dusty paths. The attacks stopped. Cattle came back. The market grew busy again. Children played freely, their laughter ringing through the air. Zongo had lived long enough to see many leaders come and go. He had heard many promises from faraway Ouagadougou, the capital. Most of them were lies, but this time felt different. This time, there was action. He saw it in the eyes of the young soldiers who came to his village. They respected the people. They asked politely for water. They didn't steal. Zongo saw hope return, and he knew he had to do something. He needed to say thank you. One Sunday, under the wide branches of the old baobab tree, Zongo shared his plan with the village. "I will ride to Ouaga," he said. "I will thank the captain myself." The villagers laughed. "Zongo, that bike will fall apart before you reach the next village," one man joked. "Why not write a letter?" another woman asked. "He won't have time for an old man like you," someone else added. But Zongo stood firm. Real gratitude needed more than words. It needed effort. It needed a journey. He would go in person. He packed light, a gourd of water, a small bag of dried baobab fruit, his faded blue robe, and something very special: his granddaughter Amina's drawing. She had made it just for the captain, a picture of a smiling soldier under a bright sun. She had written in her small, shaky handwriting, "Merci, capitaine, pour l'école. Merci pour la paix." Thank you, Captain, for the school. Thank you for the peace. Before leaving, Zongo kissed Amina on the forehead. She looked up at him and said softly, "Tell the captain, we dance again." And so, the old man started his journey. On the first day, he followed the bumpy path that led out of Zimtenga. His bike rattled and groaned, and every bump sent pain shooting through his knees. The sun was cruel, and the ground seemed to shimmer with heat. Still, he pressed on. He passed villages like his own. Sometimes people waved. Some called out, "Ouaga," when they saw his dusty bike. He nodded proudly. At night, he slept beside his bike under a thorn tree. The stars above him shone bright. The crickets chirped. Though the loneliness was heavy, his purpose gave him strength. The second day he reached a paved road. It was smoother, but filled with danger. Big trucks sped by, shaking the ground. The air was thick with smoke and noise. He stopped at a roadside stall to drink tea and eat fried plantains. A few men gathered around him, curious. "Where are you going, old father?" one asked. "To thank Captain Traoré," Zongo said. The group fell silent. Then someone nodded. "He fights for us," a man said. "Tell him we pray for him," said another. They gave him more plantains and a bottle of warm Fanta. It wasn't much, but the kindness warmed his heart more than the food. As Zongo rode closer to the capital, the world changed quickly. There were more cars, more buildings, more people. The noise was overwhelming. He was used to the quiet of his village. Here, everything moved fast. He asked strangers for directions, moving slowly through the crowded city streets. His small, dusty motorcycle looked like a toy among all the cars and scooters. Zongo didn't know exactly where to go. He just kept asking, "Where is the captain? Where does he work?" Some pointed him to a large government building with high walls and guards at the gate. At last, on the third day, exhausted and aching, Zongo stood at the gates of the presidential complex. The walls were high, the fences topped with barbed wire. Soldiers stood alert with rifles in hand. Zongo turned off his engine. Silence fell. He got off the bike slowly, his legs stiff and sore. Then, gathering his courage, he walked up to a guard. "Bonjour, my son," he said. "Hello, old man. What do you want here?" the young soldier asked. "I come from Zimtenga. I have traveled 3 days on my motorcycle. I have come to see Captain Ibrahim Traoré. I have a message. I came to say thank you." The guard looked confused. "The president? You want to see him?" "Yes," Zongo said. "I want to thank him. For the peace, for the safety, for the children who can laugh again." Other soldiers came over. One of them, a sergeant, frowned. He listened carefully as the guard explained. He studied Zongo's dusty clothes, his tired face, and his eyes that burned with honesty. "Wait here," the sergeant said. Time passed slowly. The sun burned overhead. Zongo stood quietly, hoping he wouldn't be turned away. Finally, the sergeant returned, looking surprised. "Follow me, Baba," he said gently. "Bring your motorcycle." They led him inside, not to the main building, but to a smaller office. The air inside was cool. The chairs were plastic. Zongo sat down, clutching Amina's drawing close to his chest. He felt small and unsure. He had come all this way. Would it really work? Then the door opened. A young man in a soldier's uniform walked in. He had no badges or medals, but his presence filled the room. He moved with quiet confidence. His eyes were calm but full of strength. "Baba," he said, "they tell me you came from Zimtenga. On a motorcycle?" Zongo tried to answer, but his voice caught in his throat. Everything, the long ride, the heat, the fear, the hope, overwhelmed him. Tears filled his eyes. "Yes, Captain," he finally said, bowing his head. "I came to say—" He couldn't finish. The words got stuck, but the tears spoke for him. Captain Traoré stepped closer, his voice soft. "It's okay, Baba. I am listening." Zongo took a deep breath. Then the words came. "Thank you. For 3 years we lived in fear. We buried our young. We stopped singing. But now the bad men are gone. The children play again. The fields grow again." He reached into his robe and pulled out Amina's drawing. "My granddaughter made this for you." The captain unfolded the paper. He looked at the smiling soldier drawn in crayon. The shaky writing. "Merci, capitaine, pour l'école. Merci pour la paix." For a long time he said nothing. Then he looked up, eyes shining. "This is the most important message I've received," he said. "This is why we do what we do." He looked at Zongo. "Your journey, 3 days on that old motorcycle, that's incredible." "It was necessary," Zongo said. "Thanking you in person mattered. My village thanks you. Amina thanks you. We dance again, Captain, under the baobab tree." Captain Traoré nodded slowly. "Baba Zongo, your journey gives us strength. It tells us we're on the right path. Tell your village that we hear them. Tell Amina that we will not stop until all of Burkina Faso knows peace." He helped Zongo to a chair and called for water and food. As they sat together, he asked about Zimtenga, about the crops, the school, the needs of the people. He listened carefully, not like a man with power, but like a neighbor. When it was time for Zongo to go, the captain insisted on seeing the motorcycle. They walked to where it stood in the shade. "She's an old fighter just like you," he said with a smile. Then he told a soldier, "Check the oil, tires, everything. Make sure it's ready for the road." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a cola nut. He broke it in half, giving one piece to Zongo. "For the road," he said, "and as a promise, we walk this journey together, me, you, Amina, all of us." Zongo nodded, holding the cola nut tight. He felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He had delivered his message, and the captain had received it with open hands and an open heart. The journey home was still long and hard, but everything felt different. The dust was no longer a curse. The pain in his joints was no longer a burden. He had done what he set out to do. As the great baobab tree appeared in the distance, marking the edge of Zimtenga, Zongo smiled. He would tell the villagers everything, about the guards, the cool room, the captain who listened, the drawing that touched a leader's heart, and the promise they shared with a cola nut. And he would tell them this: the dancing had only just begun.